Welcome back to my channel. This video deals with a tactic designed to mislead people as to what is the majority view on any given issue. I've talked before about the Nazi tactic called the big lie technique. That's where a really big lie is more likely to be believed than a small one. It may sound strange, but it works. Of course, while it came from the Nazis, it is used by any wannabe totalitarian group. This video will cover another tactic used by people seeking dictatorial powers, but it will use a different political force as an example. And just like the big lie, this tactic will be used by any power-hungry group. After presenting this specific tactic, I'll point out other ways bad people use it to create similar results. So let's get to the introduction.
There's a key Maoist tactic called the mass line at play, and what's called planned spontaneity. In other words, it looks grassroots, but it's organized and planned. If you break it down what it is, it gives you the illusion that there is a consensus and you're the odd one out. You're the one who's not going with the crowd, you're the weird one.
A lot of people can be taken in by this trick. Getting you to think you're the odd one out is important, because most people tend to not like being in that position. It's natural for most people to want to fit in. Heck, the entire advertising industry, especially in things like fashion, are built on this concept. Even people who like to think of themselves as independent rebels are still influenced by what they perceive as the majority. Or it may be what I'll call the submajority. That is, even if you know you hold a minority view, you probably still want to stay in line with others within your group, and so willingly believe what they say, much like teenagers. It's human nature, and bad people will take advantage of it. Let's see one way tyrannical people use these tactics.
During the Cultural Revolution in China, where the Chinese Communist Party was seizing control of the country, they would have Chinese Communist Party agents go to town hall meetings. And one person would come up and say, "I've been victimized." They'd say, "The landlord is victimizing me. The landlord is causing all these problems." And then you'll have another person, maybe a crying woman, saying, "Oh, I can barely survive. My children, where will we live if they raise my rent?" Another person stands up and says, "We need to fight. We need to kill them." Maybe you have another person stand up and gives a very weak argument. "I don't know if we should do that." And then another person shoots them down and makes them look like an idiot.
Now, I suspect town halls are less common, or at least less influential overall, compared to the power of social media. But as I said, similar results can be accomplished in other ways. More on that in a moment. Continuing.
And then what happens? A group comes up and says, "This is the solution. We're going to march on there right now. We're not going to let this abuse take place anymore. Let's all go." And everyone cheers and says, "Yes, we will do it." This is a communist tactic to have a minority appear to be a majority. This is the method they use to make a small group of people look a lot larger than they are, because this is how it works. Every one of those people who stood up, the person who brought up the issue in the first place, the crying woman, the guy who gives a weak argument, and of course the individuals who then rallied everybody to go, all of them were part of the same group, but they dispersed themselves to look like they were not. And by doing that, you could have a group of 4 or 5 people move an entire town hall meeting. And by doing so, make people believe that everybody else believes in this, and if I don't join it, I'm the weird one out, and maybe they'll even target me.
It works. Few people there will even realize what happened, which is pretty much why it works. So how can similar results be made outside of town halls? Well, I've watched the national news shows for decades, and I noticed a very consistent pattern. It isn't hard to see which political side a network favors. And when they do their panel shows, out of 4 or so people on the panel, only one would typically be from the opposing point of view. This is the media's definition of fairness. It helps make you think the network's views represent the majority view. And if they successfully propagandize enough, that's exactly what it will become. The media may also deliberately choose people from the opposition who just aren't very good at expressing themselves. This helps make you think one side doesn't have good arguments. Another trick is to choose someone from the opposition who is just as likely to criticize their own side as much as they criticize others. If representatives from both sides did that, fine, but that isn't the pattern I've seen. They can go further by censoring opposition, as we often see on social media. If one side doesn't like something, they'll label disagreements from the opposition as hate speech, even though nothing about it is inherently hateful except to the perpetually offended. It's especially interesting to see the double standards when these people complaining about hate speech are fine with calling people Nazis, etc. We've even seen parents who express their concerns at school board meetings labeled as domestic terrorists, or they'll call stuff fake news when, in fact, it's actually true. Similarly, they'll claim science disagrees with their opponents, so their opponents are censored. But often, it isn't science that disagrees. It may be, at best, scientists, and that is not the same thing. If you believe scientists don't suffer from the same human failings as other people, you are foolish. They are just as greedy and know where their funding comes from as others. They also may be afraid of losing jobs if they don't toe the line of those in power, which means they often aren't doing science, but just saying what they have to in order to survive. Simple fact, if you only allow speech for people you agree with, you don't have freedom of speech. Don't trust people who think the solution to everything is ever bigger government, especially the more centralized it is. Bad people in a limited government are limited in how much harm they can do. That isn't the case if the government is very big. A key realization of the founders was that government is a dangerous thing, but also a necessary thing. Thus, the logical solution was to have a strong government in certain areas, but very limited in what those areas were. Thanks for watching, and don't let the trolls stop you from speaking out.